Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to a wonderful night of speaking with some awesome creators that we actually know, Insymmetry Creators. Oh, Insymmetry Creations, sorry about that. We have Matt Knowles with us and Stephanie Cannon. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing awesome, doing awesome. How about you, Steph?
Yeah, doing great.
Fabulous to hear. So, I just want to thank everybody out there who's joining us for this sit down. We're going to be talking through some questions with Insymmetry and looking for some real, origin story-esque conversations so that the viewers can actually get to know the creators behind Insymmetry Creations. So first, I'd like to start off the early influences and inspirations. Childhood connections. Stephanie, when did you first develop an interest in writing and storytelling?
Oh, from a very early age. I was a big reader. I grew up an only child, and so I had a lot of time to read. And because of that, by the time I was, on the older elementary school age, like 10, 11 years old, I was very much writing my own stories, creating my own worlds in my own head all the time. And I actually wrote a very short story. It was like a scary short story thing for Halloween with my local newspaper. And I actually won at like 10, 11 years old.
This was at 11?
Yeah. And I remember there was kind of like a little small town controversy at the time because there were some adults that entered their stories and they said that I shouldn't have won because I was a kid.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for
they thought that
like
they were like threatened or something. I don't know if maybe they thought that there should have been separate categories or whatever, but my story won. And from there on, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And I can understand that if it was the other way around, if the kids were like, we should be in our own category so I have a chance, not the other way around. I can't believe this is unfair that a 10-year-old is better than me. I mean, that seems silly.
It was the 90s. We had nothing else to do to bother.
Well, I'm glad you beat him. I'm glad you beat him. I'm glad you showed him what for and how to, because that's just cool. That's just cool. So Matt, were there any specific moments or experiences that sparked your interest when you were young?
I was always a music fan, and my friend was playing bass, and he and I actually got into a pretty big fight. And when we made up, he's like, we should start a band together. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I guess I need to find an instrument to play. And then it became me picking up a guitar. Like I was in a band before I'd ever picked up an instrument to play in my life. And so that was where my writing started, was writing lyrics, writing music. The first version of that band was very, very rudimentary and definitely what you would expect out of a high school band with a dude that had never picked up a guitar in his life before. But that's where everything started for me, was writing music. I'd already written poetry a lot, and I had written some lyrics before then, but never actually turned into like actually performing them myself until that moment.
So when did you guys connect to create the Insymmetry of Glory?
Well, it was January of 2018 was when we first met. We were both in support. There was just a Facebook post. We were both in support of a fellow publisher creator of ours that we felt at the time was getting unfairly harassed and dragged through the mud. And when he put his post up, I had made a comment very early on, and it was just one of those threads that just kind of had a mind of its own. And like 3 weeks later, Steph found it and put a comment on there. And for whatever reason, her comment popped up in my thread, and I was like, oh crap, this thread is still going on. This is crazy. So I clicked on her comment, and what she said in her comment, even though it wasn't anything memorable, remarkable to the layperson, it was just a comment. It was still something that was resonated with me, the way she approached it. I looked at her profile. What she had on there art-wise was really impressive. I made a comment back to her about that, and that started us.
It was just
art. It wasn't her art. It was another artist. But the thing was, it was still something that she had commissioned to be done, and it sparked us having conversations. And the next thing you know, within 6 months, we had started actually working together. I mean, we started working together very early on, but like officially working together. And then within less than a year, we had incorporated, even though I'm in Florida and she's in California, we knew that we needed to have an official incorporated business, and that's how Insymmetry Creations came along.
You guys combined the East and the West.
We sure
the
did.
ultimate alliance.
That's right. That's right.
Fantastic.
East Coast boys and left end girls. That's right.
So with the visual storytelling, what compelled you guys to go towards the comic book, telling the story through art and things of that nature? Like, are either of you an artist, or are you both writers, or one do the other? What?
You can take this one first, Steph.
Yeah, we're both writers. We can draw barely a stick figure, both of us combined. We're okay with that. So we knew very early on that if this was the medium that we were going to be in, that we were going to have to, seek the help of comic artists. And for me, I was very into journalism. Thankfully, I am able to do that now with some of the movie reviews and articles that I write. But at the time, when I was very young, I thought that's what I want to do, is just go and be a journalist. Journalism's a lot different now than it was in the 90s. So, I did the whole, mom to young kids thing. And then later on in life, I said, you know what, the stories that I'm imagining in comic form. And it just took me a while to realize that. So I spent some time learning how to write comics, write a comic script. And that's sort of where that came from my point of view, from my area. And I know for Matt, he has kind of a different way that he got into what it was, but it just kind of converged. So yeah, we cannot draw.
So you both
I wish we could.
Comics?
It'd be way easier.
You both were into comics before you guys connected?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that was really cool about it was one of the reasons why we still are, partnered up today is because we didn't partner up because we had to. We partnered up because we wanted to. She was already doing shorter comics. She was working on some other projects at the time as well. But she had already done some smaller comics. She had a 2-pager that was just about to get picked up into an anthology at the time. I had already started writing Heirs of Isildur at that time. And that started from me. I was out of the music business for quite a while, and I was just completely burnt out on it. And then when I decided to come back in, I always wanted to do more than just have music. I wanted there to be something else to expand out the story. And in my mind, I'm like, I am going to be doing comics, and I'm going to be doing music and comics go along with it. And what I was doing at the time, which you guys have seen, was more illustrated novel than it was a pure comic. And it took Steph and I partnering up for her to be able to say in the nicest way possible, look, I know you want to do comics, and if you do, then we're going to actually make this into a comic. And that was part of the impetus to take the comic knowledge that she had and the writing side and the creativity that I had. We put the two together, and it really has helped us to be able to hone all those skills down, and we're putting some pretty cool stuff out. I personally think.
Me too.
Hey, you guys are putting amazing stuff out because you guys have passion. You guys have what it takes to get it done. Thank you from all of us here at CryptoComics. Thank you. You guys are fabulous. Without people with passion and drive like you guys, we wouldn't get to. Oh, hey, can I get a zoom up there, buddy? Can we get a full screen? Boom, quick, hurry.
Oh, there we go. Nice.
There we go. Okay, now pull back just a little, Matt. Just a little. Put him beside your face again and do the little dance.
All right.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
He can do a better dance than that. But,
no, yeah, he probably could. He should be doing like a kick out where he's like doing the squats and stuff.
There we go. Dude. Yep. There we
go.
Don't
get too motion. Don't get too motion. We don't want you to break the screen. So was there anything else that kind of led to your guys's inspiration in relation to anything else that drove you guys towards using imagery with your writing? Because comics is such a unique way to communicate, and it's really awesome that both of you guys started in different places and ended up on the same path. It's funny, we often choose the path to avoid our destiny, and it's the path that takes us to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, I originally wanted to, it was journalism and it was filmmaking. Those were my two loves, and movies are always my first love. And to be a film critic now is kind of the best of both worlds. But I started talking to a friend who was in the middle of developing a graphic novel, and he was telling me about the process. And I said, you know what, that sounds a lot easier and a little less expensive than making a whole movie, and maybe less ambitious. So maybe I should start there. And so I
Okay.
got into comics a lot later in life. I was like a teenager. Superman, like the DC comics were my first loves. And
Okay.
once I started really kind of diving into graphic novels and comics, I realized, you know what, this is very similar to film format. And so I said, you know, I kind of think I want to try this because I really, really, really love. I fell in love with the comic format later in life, but I said, I'm all in. I want to do this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Matt, I'm assuming that you were kind of in the same scenario where you had to just say, this is what I'm going to do and just go for it. Right. Like, I mean,
Yeah, so I was in the white collar world for quite a while, and was making really good money in the white collar world. But then I had some issues with the company that I was working with their kind of struggles and wanting to not only consolidate what their business was doing. In the process, they were just trying to suck your soul directly right out of your body, with making you feel inhuman. It was like, it didn't matter what you did business wise. They were like, it's not good enough. We want you to train your replacement. And I could never train my replacement because when I had a dozen years of tribal knowledge and what I was doing, they're like, in 3 weeks, pass on all this tribal knowledge. I'm like, no, this ain't going to work.
Train your replacement. I'll tell you. Boom, man.
Yeah,
I
had
to
seriously.
Literally had double digits of people that they tried to have me train, people below me, people above me in the food chain. The point there is, though, that when they finally decided to cut ties with me because I was working from home for the company at the time, I was like, never again am I going to be in a situation where I am going to be so demoralized and just turned into less than human in the public world. I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. I've had many people in my life, and once this thing happened, my oldest brother had passed away at the time. My mother had just passed away. And then I had multiple nieces and nephews in their 30s that had passed away. Since Steph and I started working together, I've had the first artist for Airs was in his 40s and passed away. The musician I started doing with Airs got killed in his 40s. My brother just died. Today is the 2-year anniversary of his death. And, I look at those things and I'm like, you might be like my dad, and you might be where he's like, in his 10th decade. The dude is like literally 90 years old. You might be like my dad and you might get that opportunity, but you never know. You might be like one of my siblings that has already passed away. Steph just had a friend of hers that was younger than me that passed away. And I'm like, we don't know how much time we have, so why do it? Why spend time being freaking miserable and forgettable? Why do stuff that nobody is going to give a crap about in the long run? Try and create something. That is why creation of stuff like this is so addictive to me, because there's nothing that's there. And then all of a sudden, because Steph and I decide we want to do something, you got I Am Keto. You got this entire story that never existed before we put our creative juices and minds together, and boom, you have a full-on graphic novel that has got characters that we pained over some of the stuff we did to the characters in there. There are people, when our colorist, one of the greatest compliments we ever got from one of our artists, our colorist, when he got to certain pages, he's from Brazil. He's like, have you guys no heart? Why did you do this to these characters? He's just the colorist, and he was so invested in what was created there. And I'm like, that's what it's about. These people are being affected by this thing that we're doing, and it is so powerful. And I'm like, why would I want to sit there and just be bludgeoned to death, literally, by doing a job that is just mindless? I mean, obviously, we all have to pay our bills. We all have to do something to pay our bills. But I'm like, I'm not going to make who I am as a human being be wrapped up in this career that doesn't give a crap about me. They would kick you to the curb in a second and replace you like you never existed. Do something that you can
guys have the entrepreneurial spirit. You guys have the entrepreneurial spirit. You fight for the freedom of choice and to be able to make your own destiny and trudge your own path. And I compliment both of you for being badass independent creators. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like I get a walk among your ranks because I consider myself an entrepreneur and an independent. So thank you for being, side by side with me, standing next to me, and we're gonna take this on. That is beautiful, and it leads me into the next section. But I wanted to let anybody out there know that if they wanted to ask a question to either Matt or Steph or both, a general question, be sure to put it in the chat so that then I can ask them for you, and we make sure that we cover your questions as well. But we're going to move on. The evolution of style and skill. You're talking about really, you guys stepped out of the machine. You stepped out of the matrix, what I'm hearing. But you stepped out of the machine and you guys built your own machine. What did it take to evolve those styles and skills so that you guys had that brand that really resonated and that frequency that really resonated with fans?
I was going to answer that, and then I started to cough.
I'm all choked up by that.
I should have said somebody's name. I apologize. I'm new at this. I'm new at this, trying to organize things, manage things.
Steph, you want to take that one first? Since I just stood on a soapbox and did headstands on a soapbox. You want me to take it?
No, I think you were on a vibe. You just got a little choked up there. So go right ahead.
So, I think one of the first things that really resonated well between Steph and I was when we first met. We both thought that we had everything we needed to try to make it, and whatever make it means, to do something in this content creation world. As soon as we met, it was very clear that there was this gaping hole that I had and a gaping hole that she had of like areas. I'm like, dude, I really don't have knowledge in this area and I'm not really skilled there. And Steph, same thing, really didn't have knowledge in a certain spot, and the other person had it. So when we combined what we were doing, we both knew that to get to where we wanted to go, we needed to trust the other person. And one of the things that we have, and if you ever want to partner up with somebody, you ever want to be in a business with someone else, you want to make sure that they've got the same mindset that you do and they have the same goals. I know that if I bring something to Steph and she likes it, she's not just saying it to pat me on the back, because she knows that if we put out something that is crap or is ill-developed, it's going to reflect on her too. If I bring something to her,
be a yes person. You can't be a yes person. That just gets you in trouble.
Exactly. If I bring something to her,
the whole like niceties and all that, and that doesn't mean that we're ever to each other either. That's just not in our personality.
Well, no, you can't be rude to each other in the business sense, but you have to be professional, and you can't try and dance around people's feelings, because the minute you do that, what happens is the path is no longer clear. It gets very cloudy very quickly, and you start walking on eggshells, and then nothing works out well.
Yeah.
Well,
we know what we
exactly
can say and how to say it, and it's different for each of us, just because we are our own people and have different personalities. So he knows how he needs to put something to me. I know how I need to put something to him, and we've been doing this long enough now that those walls are down a lot, so we just kind of
fantastic.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of things that are like catchphrases in a sense that we work with on the backside. So like Steph writes a lot of articles. She's got 90, I think now is where she's at for different publications. Wow. And so we always are like, if I write something, she edits it. If she writes something, I edit it. That's just the way that it works.
Oh,
and
yeah, that is nice. That is nice.
Yeah, and so
really?
so she'll write an article. She'll write an article, and it'll get submitted to me, and both of us know that the other person likes to be wordy, and sometimes over conversational things that we would say here don't work as much on the written page. And it's very easy for us to just literally put something down and say, remove stronger without. Steph knows exactly what I mean when I say that, and she knows exactly why I say that. I'm not saying it because I'm trying to stunt her creativity or or take away her ability to express herself. It's, hey, you know what? I know what you're trying to get across here. There's a couple words that don't need to be there. You move it. You have exactly what you needed to say, what you wanted to say. And now it's a stronger article that is going to stand up against others. And she doesn't have to question what my intentions are, because I'm not going to get anything out of whether she removes those words or not. Nobody's going to say, man, that's a greatly edited article, and I can't believe how few of these types of words in it. They're going to go, no, Steph, this is a great article. And if the article looks good on Steph, it looks good on Insim, and so we're all good to go.
Do either of you, can either of you think of a transformational moment that's happened in, say, the last so long that really like stands out to you guys and got you like in a direction that what's so funny? What's so funny, man?
I don't know what he's talking about. I do know that there are some words that and both of us are guilty of this, that we overuse in our writing, and we just know, I'm like, do not use that word ever again. You have used it 5,000 times in this script and it's not allowed anymore. So there's like little things like that. But the nice thing is that now I know when I'm writing an article, because this is the same with me. It's not just him. It's me too. I fully admit that. And I think every writer is that way. There's no writer I know now as a reader, when I'm reading either somebody's comic or I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and it drives me nuts. I'm like, this writer, I don't know what was going on with their editor, but they should have told them to never use this word ever again, because this is the 10,000th time that I've heard this word in this book. So we're all guilty of it. It is not something just subjective to just him or me or both of us. But I know that now I try to avoid those certain words, which is really hard when you're writing a film review for a horror movie. Because I'm like, how do I say creepy or eerie or scary or frightening or terrifying without using those words? It's very
that's a fantastic challenge.
That's a challenge to think outside the box and go, how can I describe this particular scene or this actor's performance and give them what, if they were to stumble upon this article or review and read it, that's going to make them go, wow, that's really cool that they saw it that way. So it's a nice challenge. I like it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I would say the transformational thing, the reason why I was laughing is that Steph has got yeoman's level of patience with me when it comes to I come from
everything.
I come from a graphic design background. I did CD cases and album cover sleeves and things like that.
Pop?
What's that?
You know how to make things pop?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a joke. That's a joke for everybody out there. Designers hate it when you say that to them.
Yeah, I come from that background of understanding those things, and there are a few things in the comic world that drive me insane. And I can tell you what, early on, one of the most hilarious things was I literally never used word balloons, and Steph knew we needed to use word balloons because I was doing illustrated novels. And she was very patient, and it's been a years-long thing to get the word balloons to where they need to be, and it's still evolving. But I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop fighting it. I'm going to stop fighting these things.
Comic form now, because I think it was very difficult for him to get out of that musician's mind, and there was a lot of things that he said, "I'm not going to do it that way. You don't see that on an album cover." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we're not doing an album cover. We're doing a comic." And then,
the other thing too is so. One of the things we've done that goes backwards is that we have always been like, we're just going to do our things the way we want to do it, and damned be the rules. But that doesn't work well. That doesn't work well when you're working in a business environment, which even this is. So like we have our Title Misfits Clubhouse that is on Scout Comics, and for it to go through and be able to get published by Scout, there are certain grammatical rules and punctuation rules that have to be followed. And if you've ever put a comic book together and you've ever had to follow the punctuation rules for comics, you will find that the only place that these punctuation rules are ever used in the history of society is in comics. Why are they
Nobody knows. It's been that way since before.
Why are they used? Because somebody in the 40s or 50s said, this is when you can have a crossbar on the letter I, and this is when you can't. And this is when you have to have a comma, and you have to use ellipses more in comics than you ever use them ever in the rest of your life.
Talk about crossbar eyes.
But here's the thing. We decided recently, when I say recently, I mean within the last year, and even now, so going back and taking a look at some of the stuff we've even more recently done, and we're like, even if it's something like I Am Keto that we did, and we released on our own, we are taking those same exact rules that we have to use for Misfits Clubhouse, and we're applying them there. So if somebody came along and like, oh, you know what, you guys have this independent book, we want to go and release it through a publisher, the grammatical rules are already right. We know the ellipses are used right. We know there's no single dashes, only double dashes, that there's 800 billion commas in there, but it's done the comic way. So that way, if it's on a store shelf beside other comics, people aren't going to go, well, this is cool, and this is cool, and this is cool, and what knucklehead edited this? They're going to be able to see it in the same way that everybody views comics, and it's going to be able to stand in that way. So I think those are two transformative things for us, is her being patient with me getting to these comic rules that are just rules because comics says so.
Oh, right. Well, now we're coming down to the next subject. And so I just want to let anybody out there know that if you do have a question for either Steph or Matt, please put it in the chat. We'll make sure that we ask them for you. If you have questions, oh, look at that. They're putting that in the chat for me. I'm trying not to look at chat because I get super distracted, and I'm trying not to look at my own face because I get super distracted.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the next section, which is taking the leap to comic creation. That first comic that you guys did. Now, Steph, you had a first comic by yourself. That's correct.
Yeah, and it was actually
what was that like?
Pager. So, which is, I stumbled upon a comics competition that was going on. I found it through Twitter because at the time I was starting to get ingrained in the indie comics community. And there was a competition, an online competition, and they had several different categories. And one of them was for one page. And at the time, that was really kind of all I could afford because I'm like, okay, this is really expensive if you want quality art. But I also said, this is a challenge. I don't know if I can tell an entire cohesive story in one page. Bring it on. And so I managed to do it, and I got a finalist in that competition. And that sort of launched me into a lot of different opportunities and people that I got to know. And but at the same time, simultaneously, I was writing the exact opposite, which was a 100+ page graphic novel, which we tell people now, probably don't start with your magnum opus. It doesn't always work out, even though Matt started off with Heirs of Isildur, which is this huge thing that's been going on for years and years. But it's very difficult to do that if you don't have the knowledge and the resources. So doing those shorter comics really helped to launch me into a better understanding as to how comics work.
And so now, Matt, you actually launched with your first comic, and it's now Steph just said, don't do this. And you want to take little steps, but it sounds like you didn't take a little step on your first comic.
Oh no, not anyway. Yeah. Not anyway. But in saying that, the one thing that I will say is one thing that I did do, which is exactly the same thing that we, when we have some people that we mentor, people that we talk to, we ran a lot of panels on getting into content creation. I knew where this entire huge arc, the first arc for the Crossroads Conundrum, was going to go. I knew where it was going to go. I knew what it needed to be. But I was like, okay, I need to make sure this is in
like that.
I knew exactly
in like that.
I normally will make sure that I always like to say I write backwards, like where are my climax points, and then what do I have to do to build forward to get there. But even though this big thing was there, I was like, now I have to make it into digestible chunks that somebody's going to be able to get the first little bit of it and be hooked. And that's where the Crossroads Conundrum issue 1, even though it was an illustrated novel, even though it was not really in comic form, it really grabbed people. And I could tell the story in chapter 1 of the Crossroads Conundrum issue 1. over and over and over again because it's such a powerful chapter and it's such a hook that drives everything else. And that's what we always tell people. Even if you're going to have a big story, you have to find a way to get down to a very small fragment of it and find a way to complete it and get it out there in the market. Because one, nobody's going to go and the very first time they talk to you, they're going to go pick up your 500-page gigantic omnibus. They're going to say, I don't even know if I like this thing. That sounds too big. I need to know what this is about. They're going to want to read something small. Find a way to get something small done, get it completed, get it out there and hook them. But also what that does is it shows that you have the ability to complete something, because we talk to so many people that are like, I've got this huge thing and it's going to be 3 gigantic arcs and there's going to be 700 pages and it's going to be 50 issues. And you're like, okay, this sounds great in your mind, but where's part one, where people can start supporting you, where people can start following you and believing in you? If you have this gigantic thing here and you never put part one down, nobody's going to believe you're ever going to put part one down. So that's what we say is the first thing needs to be done.
The challenge is actually delivering something. And you're saying to overcome that challenge, you just got to deliver something. It doesn't have to be the masterpiece.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be the grandiose. So don't put a lot of time, or don't get caught up in the details that you never put out something.
Yeah, because there's so
Correct.
many people that we talk to that come up
and this is
or whatever else, and I call them idea people, where they have this huge idea, they have this and a lot of times it is actually it sounds like a legitimately cool story, but they don't know where to start. They don't know how to start small, and so it stays an idea, unfortunately, which makes me sad because I want to see people create stuff.
So as they're talking about their idea, they're already talking about the movie deals they're going to get for the
Yes. Yes. I mean, honestly,
Yes.
yeah, because that's their life. And then it's going to be a Netflix series. And it's like, okay, there's a very small percentage of us that ever get that. We probably will never get that. You have to be okay with that. But
don't never say never.
Easy to get caught up in it all in the beginning.
This is the time to never say never, because then it'll happen.
Oh,
Netflix,
I know.
Here we come.
Oh, yeah. No, we never say never, but we're also realistic. It's like a very delicate balance. It's a very delicate balance. And some days it's weighted more towards one way or the other.
So when you're getting out that information, that the first step, getting something out, what's the best way that you guys have found to share your work?
The very first thing you're going to do is make sure, and I know this is like a side answer to the first thing, have a Google Doc, have a Google Sheet, make sure that you've got it accessible to someone else that is in your internal team so that somebody else can have some real-time eyes on it as you're putting it together. When it comes to actually getting it out from there, there's probably the two most obvious routes are find a way to get it out online, whether it is just getting out for free on your own website or on a site where you can share the story, or submit it to be in an anthology. If you find the right anthology that might work for that story, that's where Steph truly got her biggest break, was a 2-page story that she wrote that got her her first publishing deal, that got her the ability to be on a panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Because they're easily digestible stories. And the way that I got to that was I ingrained myself into indie comic publishers, got to know who they were, got to know their titles, got to know their creators, got to talk to them and find them on Twitter and Facebook and that kind of stuff, interact with them, and then become part of the community. It is a slow process. It takes months to kind of get ingrained in that, but that's the best way to start.
So you had a 2-pager and it got turned into an anthology. For anyone out there that doesn't understand what that looks like, because I can't see it, so I don't fully understand what you're saying. Could you give me a visual understanding of what you're saying?
So at the time, there was a publisher that was an indie comics publisher, and I was working on my graphic novel script. And I had an editor who was kind of editing. There wasn't much art at the time either. He was mostly editing the script itself so that I can.
This is the 2 pages, right?
No, this was my graphic novel. And at the time he said, you know what, I can picture this with these specific publishers. So I went and kind of looked at those publishers. Some I was familiar with, there were a few that I weren't. And when I started researching those publishers, I saw that there was one in particular that was going to be doing a yearly anthology, and then they were going to be doing kind of like a quarterly or a few times per year anthology, and they were accepting submissions. So I thought, you know what, this is a great way to start. Why not? And that was what got me in. I just they liked what I wrote, thankfully. In the
okay.
Yeah,
so
the best way.
the anthology was put together by someone else. You submitted, and then you got into their anthology. So all of their promoting you benefited from. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
100%. It was being in those anthologies. My life would probably be completely different now.
Imagine you go back in the day. You read Mad Magazine, right? And Mad Magazine is 50 pages or whatever it is, and there are tons of different writers that would have 1, 2, 5, 6 page articles in there that were all staff writers for Mad Magazine. Imagine Mad Magazine, but every article was from someone like Steph that had submitted a 1, 2, 5, or 6 page story, and that's what that anthology was. And then, you know, she got her name on the cover because she was a part of that anthology, or her story was in there. And it was just, that's a way to, you don't have to have a full graphic novel. You don't even have to have a full comic issue. There are some people that are probably been in, you know what, stuff, I'm pretty sure there's people that we've been in anthologies with, that may be the only time they've ever had anything published.
Well, and that was what's funny, but I was going to say is at the time, there were some creators that I really, really admired, and I felt like they were really ascending. And when I would start, I was brave enough to, you know, comment on their posts on Twitter, or just, you know, not in like a harassing way. I'd send a message and say, hey, you know, what advice do you have?
Giving them a.
And because I could just kind of tell who was cool enough to want to give that back. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, they noticed my stuff and they commented on my post. And now I'm like, I'm not doing anything in comics anymore, or we're kind of equal now in what we're doing, which is so funny because when I was first starting out, I was like starry-eyed. And so, you know, it's
and now you are the star in my eye. Right on. Well, that is incredible. That is so incredible. So advancing on, how have you guys found is the best way to really reach your community? And I know that communities are important, but how do you keep track, or not track, but updated with your communities?
So right now, we'll say this: it's difficult right now, only because the economy is really tough to make sure that you know you're connecting with them, because sales are really tough right now. But we make sure through our websites, we make sure we, about a year ago, MailChimp really messed over most everybody in the comics community, because most everybody had a MailChimp mailing list. And they made some business changes. They were bought out, and they made some pretty immediate business changes that made it where you really couldn't use MailChimp the way you were before. So now everything is moved to Substack. And so our newsletter, our blog, we have a blog called the Blog of Destiny, and all of that is on Substack now, which is actually linked on our link tree. So you'll get all of our news updates, all of our blogs. We're actually working on a couple of really cool blogs right now. Where we have a Kickstarter.
Because this goes into current projects. So you're working on blogs for your comics?
So what the blogs are we might put an article out, like we've just started doing this year. We've started going back and doing some more character profiles, because we believe in the concept that says everything is always new to somebody. So even if it's something that we've been working on for a while, there's people that would see Steph's very first one-page comic and it's going to be brand new to them. And you need to give people the opportunity to discover it. So we have been doing some blogs where we go back and do some character studies and character profiles on characters that maybe we haven't done anything with in 3 or 4 years. but they might be a character that if somebody was to go and see that character exposed, they might be like, hey, that character's really cool. I've never heard of them before. I want to go pick up that story. So we do things like that. We do, current events,
Brilliant.
columns, different things like that. But it's not to be, when I say current events, I don't mean like, let's go take some divisive hot take on something. It's more so, hey, there's this thing that's going on. We have some advice here, and here's how we would approach it. We just try to make sure anything and everything about us is there.
Matt says a lot that I have really, really focused on is something that you do is always new to somebody. It doesn't matter how old it is. That's why people are rediscovering shows from the 90s or whatever else the case may be. That's new to them. We may have grown up watching that, but there's a newer generation that's new to them. So don't ever think that what you're creating is outdated, because it like you said, it's always new to somebody.
And that's a fantastic thing I like how you guys are actually like taking things that haven't been worked on and drawing interest by focusing on like a character with a blog. That is genius. It also allows your community to touch base on what's happening, what's evolving, get better perspective on the whole world and things of that nature. I can totally see how that would just draw them in more. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I love that. So what are what's on your guys' drawing board? We're going to current projects. What's on your guys' drawing board right now?
So right now there's a lot. At the time of this recording, we're working on Heirs of Isildur, The Perilous Prospects, Book 3. It's on Kickstarter right now through February 29th. So if you're listening to this and it's past February 29th, sorry that you missed the campaign, and then you can go to our store and you can go pick it up. But if you're somebody that's going to get this prior to February 29th, there's the campaign right there. We are just under $1,000 away from our minimum funding level. For us, we make sure that we make sure we use that phrase, because that's the minimum. Once you get there, then you know the project actually is going to happen. Right. But we've got a lot of other things planned. We don't want to stop there. We want to get there. We want to crush past that and get to the next level. So we're working on Heirs of Isildur, The Perilous Prospects, Book 3. We just released I Am Keto, which is the fictional Far East expansion. It's a fantasy horror tale. I think Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur meets Mad Max. So it's a badass story. We were so pumped when we did that. So you look
what did you say? Mad Max meets what?
Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur meets Mad Max. So what your esteemed colleague in the background is doing, we have a 42-page digital sampler that we give to anybody that wants it, that has got parts of all of our main stories. They're basically ashcan length parts of those stories. Gives you the ability to get exposed to them. He is actually pulling up a couple pages from I Am Keto right now.
That's fantastic.
I Am Keto, A Tragic Tale of an Empire's Ultimate Demise. So that way you can get exposed to it without having to put a financial outlay to go get an issue. And if you want to read more, then you can go and pick up more, whether it be digital, whether it be a physical copy. If you're a collector, you want metal covers, we've got metal covers, we've got all that kind of stuff. You want shirts, like I'm wearing one of the I Am Keto shirts right now. This is the Dual Serpents shirt.
Dude,
I'm wearing the socks too, but that might be kind of hard to show. But
we all love feet. No.
I think you need to show them the sock stuff. I think you have to do it now.
Okay, so
dude, that's sick. I Am Keto. Oh my gosh, I love those.
There you go. Look at that. Look at that. He pulled up the shirt. So that's the shirt right there. That's the I Am Keto Dual Serpent shirt. So all these things are also still available in that Heirs of Isildur campaign. If you're like, oh crap, I didn't even hear about this, and I want to get my hands on some of that stuff, you can go to our Kickstarter campaigns, and we try to make sure that there are catch-up tiers through all the titles that we have, through if you want multiple covers or clothes, we have some tiers that are just all the different socks we've ever produced, or there's 5 different shirts you can get that are in there. But so the main thing that we're working on right now is Heirs of Isildur, The Perilous Prospects, Book 3. The other things we're working on, we can't really talk about all. There's only one of them we can really talk about now, but let's just say that the things that we're working on that we believe in the whole steampunk concept of taking things that are maybe old and repurposing them and polishing them up and turning them into something new and
We're going to have
futuristic.
to use that more when we're talking about that title. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So we have quite.
Wait, something just happened. Something just happened.
I know. I was like, I don't think that we've referred to it as that before in that way. We talk about steampunk because that is steampunk. Because a lot of times people come up to us and they're like, "What is steampunk?" And that's so hard.
Right.
That's so difficult to pin
it's
down.
This old with gears.
Let's say this. We know right now. If everything happened, if we could plan out the rest of this year, we know what the next 3 Kickstarters are that we would run, and none of them are Misfits Clubhouse. Misfits Clubhouse, that's the one thing we can talk about is Misfits Clubhouse, which is our all ages title. Think Saturday morning cartoons in comic form. That's the title that's on Scout Comics. We do have a couple of upcoming releases that'll happen through Scout on that. One of them is a reprint of an issue we did on Kickstarter. One of them actually does have some new stuff in it, but we're also working on something brand new that we can't really talk about, but it's going to be, super, super fun with our artist Raheel Mosin for Misfits Clubhouse right now as well. So in just that, we've talked about 3 projects past Heirs of Isildur, The Perilous Prospects 3, and Misfits Clubhouse. That means we're busy.
Yeah, you guys are.
You
guys are super busy.
We
you
don't
guys
sleep.
Are super busy. Hey, and we all thank you. So in closing, where can people follow you on social media so that they can really support you guys on this journey you guys are on?
All right, so social media, the easiest thing to do for social media, if you go to linktree.com/Insymmetry Creations, which is actually what's scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now, linktree.com/Insymmetry, that's INSYMMETRY Creations. If you go to that link tree, we try to make sure that everything that we have is linked and current that is there. That could be what our most current Kickstarter campaign is. That could be what our store is. That could be Steph's. Steph's got over 90 bylines for different articles in the horror geek culture realm. There's a link that'll take you right to the entire link of all of the things that she's done. There's a page for every single one of our socials. There's a page for every single one of our titles, because we want you to be able to get to everything you want to know about us in as few clicks as possible. So you can go right there to the link tree. If you're getting this and it's before February 29th, go to tinyurl.com/heirs. That's HEIRS. TPP3, that is the campaign we're on right now. We want you to go up there and come back to campaign, not because we need it, but because we know you need to be where steampunk comics and metal collide, and you need that in your life.
Yes. Yeah. Have you guys done, you guys have been doing soundtracks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 2 full albums. There's the Crossroads Conundrum. There's a full album that goes along with that. Then we did Heirs of Isildur versus Tales from Nocturnia. I know that someone affiliated with this thread, some esteemed individual, actually picked up one of our collectible vinyl records of that, and has that of their very own. They might cuddle up with it at night, but somebody from CryptoComics does do that. So then what we started doing after that album was just started doing one-offs. So like when we did one of the Misfits Clubhouse campaigns, we actually did a Misfits Clubhouse jingle. At some point, we'll record the full thing out because there's full lyrics for that. When we did I Am Keto, I Am Keto has a full theme song called Spiral into Madness. We released Spiral into Madness, and we also released an orchestral version. All the metal instruments, guitars, drums, bass, and the vocals are taken out, and it's just the orchestral stuff and the violins. And then this campaign will have a brand new song in it. If you go to the campaign and you listen to the trailer video, it's only 15 seconds right now. And that is just because it's a teaser for the song. By the end of the campaign, there'll be a longer teaser. And then by the time the issue comes out, there'll be a full brand new Heirs of Isildur song to take a listen to.
Now I just have a side question, and this is somewhat a little bit selfish, but have you played around with the jukebox feature in the marketplace and breaking up your songs to match the pages and stuff like that? I'm just wondering if you.
So I have not, but the only reason is because the songs that we put
I know
out
you will.
would be very, very difficult to do that. It'd be very difficult.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would be just because it's a metal song, and it's. I mean, I would be. It'd be tough that we could go and attach. Now, I will say this: I thought maybe back in the day we might have attached a couple of the songs, because there are songs that'll be like it'll say if you want to know more about this character, you want to know more about Shiver, go listen to his song, and this because this song Shiver is his origin story. Or for Murk, listen to Murky Waters, its origin story. I feel like I might have played around with it then back in the day. Haven't done anything with it recently, but that might be something that we need to go back and investigate a little more.
You might have inspired us to do something
we've done some improvements. I'm not going to say anything I'm not allowed to, but you know what I'm saying.
Cool.
Anywho, I just want to say thank you, Steph, thank you, Matt, thank you, Insymmetry, for joining us tonight and sharing with us your story, your guys' origin, your awesomeness. Is there anything else you guys want to say to anybody out there that will help you guys reach your goals?
You want to take that one first, Steph?
Yeah. Well, one of our catchphrases that we like to say, and I always have to say it slowly so I don't like switch it up, is because that would be bad. Is we want characters you can relate to in universes you want to escape into, and that is our big thing. We don't want to just create. Yeah, you can see where if I switch that up, it would be bad. So yeah. So, but we want to create stories that you can, even if it's a small aspect of some character, even if it's the villain, it doesn't matter. If there's something about them that that resonates with you, that you can relate to, or touches on some aspect of your life in any way, and you look at that world and you go, that would be kind of cool to be in, I have to say, even if there's chaos going on, because there's something about it. It doesn't hardly ever do fictional worlds start off chaotic. They usually just end up that way. So that's our main goal. We feel like we've really done that with Heirs. This part of the storyline, I really like. This is probably my favorite part of the story so far, just because of the emotional impacts that are going on with these characters that you've gotten to know for so long. So I really feel like you're going to get some emotional hits if you were to check it out even now.
The thing that I would say is, this goes back to the creator side of it. One of the things we always encourage people to do is don't procrastinate. Don't be like, I'm going to go and do this tomorrow, because you don't know that you've got a tomorrow that's going to be waiting for you. So do what you can to be able to, when you go to bed tonight, always say to yourself, did I do everything I could during that day? Did I try and further myself? And furthering yourself could be one thing. It could be, I'm going to go set up a Google Sheet, which everybody's got in front of them on their computer, on their phone. I'm going to go set up a Google Sheet, and I'm just going to go and type in some of my goals. And if you do that, that's literally one step closer to creating content. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to go try to enact the most simple one of these goals that I have here. I'm going to go create a Google Doc with the first thoughts I have about a story. Okay, well, you know what? You've done that. Don't wait. Don't find some other reason to go do something else. It's so easy to get those initial thoughts out. Don't let anything get in the way. Just do it.
Just do it.
Nike said it. It's Nike's slogan.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I let them borrow it.
Yeah, well, I mean, allegedly, it was a slogan of somebody's. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you, everybody out there, for joining us on this journey through the Insymmetry's origin story. Have a great night, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See ya.